After reading her mom's bucket list, a woman called the police. But before we start, please give the video a like and make sure to subscribe to Wonderbot and hit the bell so you'll never miss any uploads from us. Think about some of the things you want to achieve before you get too old to do them. Have you created a bucket list of the most meaningful ones? Whether it's something like go skydiving or even drive a Lamborghini, lots of people have lifelong wishes that they hope to make a reality. Josie Birds, a 93-year-old grandmother from Manchester, England, had a bucket list full of things she wanted to complete before age got the best of her. However, after reading her list, her daughter Pam called the police. The Manchester, England police are just like any other team of dedicated officers assigned with protecting citizens. They've seen it all. Being a cop means keeping your cool, but sometimes even the most experienced officers face something that stops them in their tracks. This is Josie Birds, a 93-year-old grandmother from Manchester who opened her front door one day to the sight of two police officers ready to arrest her. But she hadn't done anything wrong. Her daughter Pam contacted the local Manchester Police Department days before Josie was arrested. She asked them to show up unannounced at her mother's house and slap her in cuffs. A few days later, two armed officers arrived at the doorstep of Josie Birds and knocked. It took a minute for the frail woman to answer, but when she did, she welcomed them inside. Now, you might have seen movies or television shows where teams of officers rush in and take down the bad guys in hardcore fashion, but this wasn't that kind of arrest. The officers gently clipped handcuffs around Josie's wrists and read the woman her rights. They tried to keep straight faces the whole time, but everyone was having a blast, especially Josie's daughter, Pam. The two officers placed Josie into the back of their vehicle and drove her down to the precinct. Once there, they sat her in a holding room while she was booked. After the police filled out all the appropriate paperwork, they walked the cuffed grandmother to an empty cell and instructed her to sit on the bed. Once she sat down, the bars slammed shut. Strangely enough, the elderly woman was thrilled at the whole ordeal and was beaming the entire time. Apparently, get arrested was on her bucket list, and police played along to help her grant her wish. An officer sat with her for a short time before releasing her with a huge smile. One more goal checked off the list. Funny enough, this wasn't the first time something like this happened. In the town of Stoke Bishop, Bristol, lived 104-year-old Anne Brokenbrow. Anne lived in a senior home, and the workers would often have various activities for the residents to engage in. But there was one particular Anne was excited about. Workers placed a board up at the community center room asking residents to fill out a form stating one wish they wanted granted. It was part of a charity initiative, so Anne made her bizarre request. The wholesome woman who never committed a crime in her entire life wanted to know what it was like to be on the other side of the law. As odd as the request was, Bristol police had an answer. After being contacted by the senior home workers, several uniformed officers went to the home to arrest Anne. As soon as Anne saw them approaching, she knew her request was granted. Because of Anne's age, the officers were extremely careful slapping on the metal handcuffs. But Anne was more than happy to have her hands bound together. After all, she wanted it done. After cuffing her and reading her rights, Anne was escorted by a couple of the senior workers to a police car where she was carefully placed in the front seat. It was really happening for her. The officer who was driving made sure she was comfortable before taking her away to the station for booking. Anne could finally say she didn't live her entire life with such saint-like qualities. The officers and workers involved were so thrilled they could make an elderly woman's dream come true. At 104 years old, she was likely the oldest person Bristol police ever arrested, by a long shot. Both Josie and Anne had their arrest wishes granted by two very kind and fun-loving police departments. At the end, we want to know your opinion about the story in the comments box below.